Speaksies.
You would have asked me a week ago about possums. I would have said, possums. Seriously. What's the point? I'm here to tell you, I am now pro-possum.
Welcome to Origin of Speaksies. My name is Scott. I'm here along with my friend Steve, and I don't believe what I just heard.
That's right.
You said you are now a fan of possums. What are you talking about? Why?
Well, first of all, I want to go back to a conversation we had recently where you were telling me that you were going to potentially go on a safari. Not a real safari where you're killing anything, but
Yeah, they'll be sedated. But
yeah.
you know.
Well, you'll be in Myrtle Beach, so most people will be
we'll be sedated too.
But I was like, why would you say that? And then I realized that I also in developing a podcast called Animals That Suck.
Right.
And if you don't believe me, you can go to speaksies.com/animals and see the quote from Barack Obama that inspired me to make that podcast, which is still in development. Got some good ideas, some good interviews lined up, but I want to be objective. And if you can give me some good facts about why I should like an animal, I'm going to support that animal. And possums, as we've discussed and as anyone's ever seen one, are just nasty and gross looking.
Right.
But I learned some things at an actual zoo. So I was recently at the zoo in Washington, D.C., learned a lot of things. I learned that pandas are like rock stars, and people will run all around a stupid zoo looking for a dumb panda. But I did learn something about possums.
Did you really? Is it really got to be a stupid zoo and a dumb panda?
I apologize.
Come on.
That was very negative of me. I forgot.
You're supposed to be objective until people give you facts. Okay.
I would say that I found people running around to see a panda unnecessary.
Okay.
Because it's a panda. It's not going to move that fast.
You know what my favorite thing at the zoo is?
What?
All right. Have you ever seen a rhino take a dump?
No, I haven't.
It's the most. It's powerful, dude. It comes out and it's just like you've never seen anything like it.
That sounds like the worst Match.com opening question that's ever been written.
Listen. That's the greatest thing at the zoo because just not to get you off track, but
yeah.
I mean giraffes. Like they're a little weird and creepy with their tongues and they're very aggressive.
I mean, I personally have nothing against giraffes, but I don't see how they really add value. But I
totally agree.
But I will tell you an animal that adds value.
Yeah.
Possums.
How so?
Possums eat snakes.
Is that real?
Yes, that's real.
Okay.
Possums are, and one of the reasons they eat snakes is they're immune to most snake venom.
Really?
Yes. Possum facts.
Okay. All right. Now this is real true facts. Okay.
And
that's a good plus for possums. So the negatives on possums are
they're gross.
Yeah, they look like they scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah.
And if they're nocturnal and all of a sudden they're just sitting there looking at you for no reason.
And it's one of the few animals that if you see them with their young, they're even grosser. Like most animals will improve if you see them with little tiny possums.
Right.
If you see possums dragging possums, it's
gross.
disgusting.
Baby yeah, so they're real gross.
Mm-hmm.
But they eat snakes, which is good because
that's
nobody
great.
really likes snakes. Actually, that's not true. Some people do like snakes, but
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not one of those people.
Well, there you go. Steve, open mind Steve. Wow.
Yeah, and let's not go too far.
Yeah.
But one thing I will add, which goes against one of my puts another leg up on possums against, I think, probably one of my bottom three animals, raccoons.
Yeah.
Possums are immune to rabies.
Oh,
almost immune to them. So if we can possums can take out snakes and raccoons.
That's wild.
Yeah.
The fact that they're immune to all this stuff. That's why they're still around all this time. They should, because really, you look at a possum can't fight. I mean,
right.
Maybe when push comes to shove, they could fight, but they can take a licking and keep on ticking. Is what it comes down to.
They're taking out snakes, so they're doing something. I don't know how many bites they're taking to take down a rattlesnake.
Are they actually taking down a snake, or are they? Well, I guess you did say they are.
Yeah.
So the snake just keeps biting them, and then all of a sudden they bite back. I guess they're not used to it. We'll have to find some YouTube. Actually, nah.
No, we don't want YouTube.
I don't want that in my mind. Never mind.
I mean, they've they've gone up on my rank, but that's not
this would definitely go file under things you can't unsee. I don't want to see a possum fight a snake. I don't know, kind of do.
And related, I didn't see a rhinoceros have a bowel movement, but I did watch an orangutan climb up a giant pole and urinate for a crowd.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
And which is something else you'll probably see next time you go to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, for sure.
It was good prep for you should go to the Washington D.C. Zoo.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go and hopefully not get like our faces bitten off or anything like that, and get to see some tigers. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Well, Steve, man, good for you. That's
good for me.
Yeah, for opening your mind to possums. I would have never believed that. All right. No way to transition, but we're going to get into today's idioms or words. Actually, I don't know. This one is more like a nickname. So the first one we're going to get to tonight is Great Scott.
Great Scott.
So first of all, this is one that I think if it hadn't been for Back to the Future may have kind of died. You know, Doc Brown saying Great Scott is the first thing you think of.
Yep.
I'm not even going to ask you because it's the first thing everybody thinks of. For me, it's a little different because I was, I guess, 7 years old when that movie came out. And my whole life I've had people say, Great Scott to me, like for, because my name is Scott and it's like super clever when you're 7 or 8. But it has legs. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. I still hear it. And I was starting to think of other things that I have gotten called that are related to my name throughout my life. I mean, my nickname was Scooter when I was a little kid. People come up to me and say, Scotty Too Hottie.
That's a good one.
Do you know who that is?
Of course I do. That's a wrestler.
Yeah. So somebody informed me it was a wrestler, and today I was talking to Lincoln at work, and I said I'd never heard of the guy, and I said I bet you Steve knows who he is. So is he like a good one, or is he gone, or
no? He's not dead yet.
Okay,
so he's got that going.
He's got that going for him. So Scotty Too Hottie, I heard. Plus, I kind of like it because, Too Hottie is kind of nice. But I also feel like maybe if someone says it to me, it's in the ironic way, you call a fat guy slim. So
well, he was in one of my favorite tag teams in the late '90s with a gentleman by the name of Too Sexy Brian Christopher, who's the son of Jerry the King Lawler that you know from.
Oh yeah.
And they were in a tag team that often joined up with a sumo wrestler character.
Okay.
And they kind of, how to say this delicately, they went with a faux urban white person personas that they kind of played with a little bit. Scotty Too Hottie's finishing move was to do the worm and then to pop up into a karate chop. But they played... Would I lie about this?
To do the worm and then pop up into a karate chop? Are you kidding me? Okay. That's amazing. Anything else you want to share about? Like, again, this is not, you didn't know this was coming, but any other Scotty Too Hottie facts?
I think personally he looks a lot like Eric Neff. Like there's an alternative universe, and I hate saying that because you hear people tell you, oh, you kind of look like this person, and you don't feel good about.
Oh
that.
Yeah.
And so Neff, if he hears that, but I think he resembles him.
No, Neff, you do look like him because Neff one time said that. Who's the fat guy from Game of Thrones?
Hold the door.
No, not Hope. No, the Citadel guy. Oh, come on. Jon Snow's friend.
You could be making up words.
I know. Okay, you don't watch this, but I'm not even going to worry about it. But the guy that you guys all know that you're listening, who I'm talking about, Eric said that me and this guy Jim, you put us together and we look like that guy.
Yeah.
And that was insulting because that guy is real fat. So, okay, Scotty Too Hottie, I'll take that one. The other one I hear about my name, people will sing Scotty Doesn't Know, which I'd never heard. Have you heard of this one?
Is that from Austin Powers?
No.
Okay.
It's from a movie I have not seen, but apparently was popular enough that people sing it in my face, called Eurotrip.
Vaguely aware of that.
So anyway, it's a band called Lustra, and I it's just a weird thing people would say, like, Scotty doesn't know, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I finally listened to it. It's a quite, frankly annoying song. I wanted to ask you, are there any like nicknames that you've gotten because of Steve
So nicknames that I've had kind of related to my first name. You'd always get Stevie Wonder when you were younger.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember there was a big, during the early 90s when Rob Schneider would do the making copies, I'd get a lot of Steve-O.
Steve.
Yes, which I actually enjoyed that. And our Speaksies friend, Bill Cannell.
Yes. Not Cannell.
Not Cannell. Even 2 N's in the name, and I'm not bitter about that. Actually, I will see me frequently and still bring that up. So I like that one.
Yeah. Well, and I for a long time I would just call you Steve Areno because
that's a
it's
classic.
still a part of that.
Yeah,
Steve Areno.
And sometimes you get the female derivatives, the Stefan. I think our good friend,
yeah.
Our good friend Mike back home does that still, which is fun.
I get people call me Steve a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get does anyone ever call you Scott?
Occasionally. Most of the time, because I kind of have a distinctive last name. Most of my nicknames that I hear to my face, at least, or derivatives of that. No, it's fine.
Oh yeah, you're open.
We're open now.
Okay,
we've decided what. So I get a lot of derivatives of Glissman. I'll get Gliss or Glissy.
Well, I just mean like I think that there's enough of a similarity in the name that for whatever, like nobody ever calls me Mike or Robert or anything.
Right.
It's I get the Steve every once in a while. But so Great Scott, is that something that you use ever?
I don't think so. All I could think of when you told me this was going to be on here was Back to the Future. Because I remember that's pretty much how much it's been used. And I want to say maybe it was something that would also be used by like kind of older. You'd see like a 1950s TV show.
That's right.
Someone would say this as an exclamation.
Yep.
And it's one that I could kind of see it being something instead of saying "Good Lord" or something like that. You say "Great Scott." It's that that sort of. By Jove sort of thing.
Well, it's funny you say that. In fact, in 2010, the Oxford Dictionary of English actually calls it a dated expression, which is a little bit of a smack talk there for them. But
because it's when you want to know what's hip and cool.
Absolutely,
I go to the Oxford English Dictionary.
Break out the OED.
Yeah. That's how I learned about trap music. Was the Oxford English Dictionary.
I bet that's in there. And how mad does that make you? It's in there, I guarantee you.
Not as mad as Young Gravy, which again still brings up a mixture of feelings in me. Sorry. All right.
The Young Gravy theme is going to. I already know. Mm-hmm. It's going to be pretty much every episode.
It's going to be a gravy train drive because it's the only thing I think right now that is relatively a young person's thing that I have any grasp of.
We should try to like somehow connect with Young Gravy. Yeah. Is he real famous? Like, do you know?
I don't know.
I mean, he's playing at the National. That's not like he's not playing. What I'm trying to say is, I think he's attainable. I don't know for what.
Yeah, and at what cost?
Tell him it's the number 2 podcast in Richmond. You want to hype up the show?
We could do that.
I'm actually serious. So okay. So we're going to table the Young Gravy stuff here, but So but again, you don't really use it.
Not too often. I don't think I've ever used it, actually. I think it's something I've heard, but I don't think I've ever used.
Right. And you've never gotten in the face of someone named Scott and just said, "Great Scott."
One other thing, I've known you a long time. I don't think I've ever used
You've never said that to me.
So one of, you asked me about nicknames. Mm-hmm. So one nickname I do remember from high school that came up was an ironic one, and it was the Veteran. You remember ever hearing that nickname?
I do not.
So at the tiny high school that will remain unnamed that I went to, I was on the basketball team basically out of necessity of roster spots to be filled. And there was an administrator who would also remain unnamed. But anyone who knows me, younger me, will probably figure out who this person was, who was so corrupt that they were actually thrown out of Africa. I want you to ponder what I just said.
That's true.
Too corrupt for Africa.
Yeah.
Mentioned people who weren't playing and called them rookies. And I remember saying, I'm not a rookie.
That's right.
I'm a veteran. And then I was known as the vet or the veteran
awesome.
for a while.
That is exactly how you get a nickname in high school. Is you protest that I'm not a rookie, I'm a veteran.
And I really taught her a lesson by the 3 minutes I think I played probably my entire career.
I mean, you corrected her, and that's what we're doing now is we're debunking stuff. So she clearly didn't know what a rookie was.
Yeah. And I have also never been thrown out of Africa for being too corrupt.
Not yet. Now,
give me time.
I do have a question. Do you remember, I think I've only had, other than like when I was a little kid, the nickname I mentioned earlier, Scooter. Do you remember me having a nickname in middle school or high school? Jeff says it all the time. Two-Step.
Two-Step.
Do you know where that came from?
I don't.
So, and I wasn't going to bring this up, and I'd actually forgotten about it until you said the veteran thing. So I hadn't heard of veteran. You hadn't. Steve's a couple years above me in school, so. But I was on the baseball team, and I was a rookie that year. So I was like one of the youngest kids on the team, and they had put me at second base or shortstop. I don't remember. It was an infield in practice, and somebody hit the ball. You know, and this is how the stupid nicknames start. Somebody hit a ground ball, and it got past me, and Shane Clements just started saying, "You got to take more than 2 steps." You know what I mean? Like, what is that? That's no effort. And he just starts roasting me, and then the whole team's roasting me. And it's 2 steps. All right, 2 steps, and for the rest of the season in my life, some people still call me 2 steps. So, well, let's talk about Great Scott.
Okay.
So, Great Scott is something that has, by the way, foreshadowing, we're going to have or I don't know if it's really foreshadowing if I am explicit about it, but I'm going to tell you that one of our recent etymology heroes is going to make an appearance here, kind of saves the day once again, and I'll explain that in a bit. But Great Scott has been widely perceived as a minced oath, right? Okay. Sort of like by Jove or by George.
Okay.
It's a way to avoid being blasphemous, right? So you don't want to use the Lord's name in vain. You say by Jove instead of by God. Jumping Jehoshaphat is another one, you know, things like that. Even in the 2010 OED, as I mentioned earlier, they just identify it as an arbitrary euphemism for great God. So instead of saying great God, you say Great Scott. Makes sense. Moving on, right? Oh no. No. We've learned.
Back it up.
We're not gonna come to you with that. There's gonna be more. So, a couple of theories here. I asked around a little bit today, and a lot of folks pretty much said the same thing, that hey, it must have something to do with Scotland, you know, some sort of great Scott thing, which makes sense because I do believe that I could see that. I think Scottish people are very proud of. And you could. I've
seen Braveheart.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what somebody brought up. William Wallace. It's not that. It really has nothing to do with Scotland. So, according to Michael Quinion from Worldwide Words, he talks about how probably the predominant theory on this one is that it comes from German immigrants. All right. So, welcome back, Germany.
It's been a long time since I've been here, which generally is a good thing.
It is usually a good thing. So that's why we're gonna say welcome, and
we're gonna keep an eye on you.
Yeah, that's right. And you're welcome to have a good time, then head back out. But there is a very common German expression, which is Grub Gott. Now I can't say it like a German would because I can't speak in that sort of throaty, guttural way. But it loosely translates to God bless you. And it's just a greeting. So you'd say, what's up? You'd say, Grub Gott, whatever.
Yeah. Which probably, as most German phrases, sounds very intimidating and angry.
Absolutely. Yeah. I even kind of scared myself just then when I said it. Grub Gott, oh God, no, that was me. So it has been mistaken for good God. I think it's a little bit of a stretch, though, to get from Grub Gott to Great Scott, because it doesn't mean the same thing. A greeting, God bless you, Grub Gott, is just that, a greeting. It's not, an exclamation like Great Scott would be. And Michael Quinion agrees. So actually, I'm following his lead on this one. Yeah, and as usual.
Yeah, and I think that's always a good decision. I wonder what other things he advises on. I feel like that if he started a cult or like had essential oils to sell, that you and I would be there pretty early on. We'd be at the top of the pyramid.
Quick question for you.
Please.
So let's say we could have one guest on the show. Would it be, and we got one shot at this, Michael Quinion, or I'm going to give you 3 choices.
Okay.
Guy Fieri or Young Gravy.
Oh.
Rank them.
The answer is simple. Barack Obama.
Oh,
he would be there.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Well, I'll work on that.
Yeah.
He does like to do podcasts.
He does.
Yeah.
I think he would be happy to see how much he's inspired me.
I'm sure he would. And I'm sure it's already gotten back to him your nice words about being the first Hawaiian president. Mm-hmm. Even though that episode hasn't been actually released yet, I don't think.
He knows.
He already knows.
Brock knows.
So, oh well. But yeah, I would definitely follow Michael Quinion to the ends of the earth. He's a hero. And like I said, we're going to have another one here in a minute that's creeping up. So we don't think it's that seems like a stretch, but that is actually a fairly prominent theory. Another fairly prominent theory that's also a little more believable to me is that it could be a reference to Sir Walter Scott. Oh. And Sir Walter Scott, you may recall, we've talked about him a lot. Cold shoulder in a pickle, caught red-handed.
And also that he's not Sir Walter Raleigh. We discussed that.
And Steve has made it very clear that it's not Sir Walter Raleigh. So there are references to him as being the Great Scott. And, it makes sense, but the way I look at it, it could also be, you could call someone like the Great Shakespeare, the Great this. It's just because you have some text out there that refers to him as the Great Scott. Mm-hmm. It's hard to sort of get from there to, Doc Brown.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It's probably not that. So the oldest known appearance that we have for this in print was found by Peter Wrighton in October of 2015. Mm-hmm. And he found that in 1845 in Woodsfield, Ohio, there is a paper called The Spirit of Democracy. Which really reminds me of
Freedom's Champion.
But
it's a good in-between, I think, between Freedom's Champion and what was the other one?
Freedom's Contender? Oh, no, you said it might be that. But yeah, what was the other one?
Was it like the Madison Post or something?
Yeah, it was fairly more
generic. But, good. Again, no Freedom's Champion, but it's
not Freedom's Champion, but I did find it interesting that it's around the same time frame, and it's the Spirit of Democracy. I really like the way these were named around this time.
The golden age of naming newspapers.
It was, because we've seen London Magazine,
Ladies Magazine.
Yeah, Ladies Magazine.
Yield Penthouse.
Yeah. Wait, what? So, there's a quote where. These quotes are boring. I'm not going to read it, but just trust me. He says Great Scott in it in 1845. Yeah. But then we have two later examples that tie it to a real person. Now, here's where our hero comes in.
Okay.
Barry Popick. Now, Barry Popick, as you may recall, is the one who did all that legwork and came up with the true origin of the Big Apple.
Right. And I would like to note that it was legwork, puts it mildly. He's very passionate legwork.
He's a passionate dude. Go to just go to his website.
And anyone is welcome to name their band Passionate Legwork, as long as they can. That would be.
Yeah. Or name your newspaper that.
Or a new sex move.
But if Barry Popick, if you hear this, we think you're awesome.
Yeah.
We want to keep Barry on our good side.
Definitely.
So, but what he does, which is kind of cool, all kidding aside, is he seems to find ones that like people have given up on and kind of said, okay, it's just a minced oath. And he's like,
no.
Let me give you the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So he found some quotes here. So Galaxy Magazine in July of 1871. Now, I don't know where that came from.
Wow. Well, again, golden age of newspaper naming. The magazines had to turn it up a notch.
But it just kind of goes, it's not like it's patriotic. It's just like Galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay. Shoot for the stars or whatever. All right. So, and it says, Great Scott, he gasped in stupefaction, which I love that word, stupefaction. It's also a great album by, who's that guy?
Hoobastank?
Yeah. Definitely not Hoobastank.
Okay.
Singer-songwriter guy I can't think of. But stupefaction, using the name of the then commander-in-chief for an oath, as officers did sometimes in those days. So you're like, ooh, military, okay. Then in something called Americanisms, the English of the New World by Maximilian Schele de Vere in 1872. he kind of flips it a little bit, but it says Scot great. And so they're defining what this means. Scot great. A curious euphemistic oath in which the name of a well-known general is substituted for the original word, probably merely because of its monosyllabic form. So what's this about the general? Well, Barry Popek's going to tell you all about it. So he did research and he found a book in 1867 by John William DeForest, someone named Miss Ravenel's Conversion from Secession to Loyalty. It says, quote, I follow General Scott. No Virginian need be ashamed to follow old Fuss and Feathers. We used to swear by him in the army. Great Scott, the fellow said. So I think that's it. So we've got these places where they say there's a general, there's this guy, Great Scott. So a little more digging, and of course, Barry Popek knows who this is.
Yeah, and I think I might know too.
So you know who this guy is. Tell us what you know about Great Scott.
So I think I do know, and I was very happy a few weeks ago when you sent me a picture of a very obese older man that I recognized because I had just seen the same actual picture of General Winfield Scott, who was Abraham Lincoln's first general in the Civil War.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep, he was the commander before
he was
it all went down.
He was the first one that Lincoln brought back before Scott failed and several others failed before U.S. Grant was put in the role. Yeah. So not to start pejoratively on Winfield Scott, in his defense, when he was brought in by Lincoln, he was in his 70s. Yeah. He was over 300 pounds, and he was best known for his success in the Mexican-American War. Right. So he was known in his younger years as Old Fuss and Feathers. Yep. This was turned back around on him as he got older and a bit heavier. It was also used as old fat and feeble.
Well, the guy probably had a thyroid problem, and he's an American hero, and people make fun of him.
Yeah, and it is impressive though. And I don't mean this as a backhanded compliment, but in that era to get over 300 pounds.
Right. That's a good point.
You're doing some work.
Yeah.
You're at whatever the version of Golden Corrals was back then.
Well, he earned it though. But I did like the fact that so thank you, because I don't have to go through the biography. You got it. But it said he was too fat to ride a horse.
Yeah. That's not good.
No.
I'm not a doctor.
Horses should be, I mean,
yeah.
You got to be pretty heavy. But the other thing about that picture, so you saw that same picture. Actually, he looks miserable.
He does, because he's 300 pounds and he's got a lot of clothes on and a lot of buttons and a sword. And he looks like he realizes that he's going to get to the buffet. Right. And that he's going to have to get that third round of food. Call back to one of our early episodes, Break a Leg. I reminisced about one of the times I was at Ford's Theater when I was in Washington, D.C. recently. Saw the zoo. Also made sure I went to Ford's Theater. Yep. Shout out to Ford's Theater. If you get a chance, go. I mean, I try to go every time I'm in Washington, D.C., and it's still, you pick up on something new when you're there.
You remember we did an episode, was it Mad as a Hatter? Mm-hmm. It came up as well because
Boston Corbin.
Boston, yes, sir. And so it's been interesting how we the Ford's Theater and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln has come up a few times in idioms, but yeah, so there actually is a Great Scott. So this is a very satisfying one for me because you get a little debunking in here, and you also get a definitive. I think this is a definitive answer. Like, this is the Great Scott. There is a Great Scott.
When you hear it, it makes sense,
and it doesn't seem forced. And you also have quotes that back it up. So
and Barry Popek.
Yeah, Barry Popek. If he says it, lock it in.
Yep, shut it down.
A new podcast from Speaksies.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
History.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
Science.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
Literature.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
A new podcast from Speaksies.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
History.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
Science.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
Literature.
True Facts with Robert Banquet.
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 To learn more, go to speaksies.com/truefacts. That's speaksies.com/truefacts.
All right, so the next one we're going to do, keeping with the theme of my name, Scott, is Scot-free.
Scot-free.
So, do you use that ever?
I think this is one I actually use. And scot-free, you get away with something scot-free. I have no idea where it comes from. Don't know the roots of it, but it means you get away. You've done something, or you need to get out of something, and you get out with any consequences. There's nothing that happens to you. You've done something bad, and you get away scot-free.
Yep.
I think you hear it like almost in like 70s detective shows if someone killed someone.
I was thinking that too.
You don't hear it a lot, but you've heard it enough to know what it is.
Yeah, I definitely think I think of a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, just to throw another one in there, you got caught red-handed and was let off scot-free.
Yeah.
And it's a sentence that you could say and you'd never really think about what does that mean.
Yeah. And you kind of understand it when you hear it, even if you haven't explained it.
Yeah. I think we used to say this in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it though in this one. We haven't said it. It does just sound good. It's something about the way it's phrased. You sort of envision someone just scot-free, no care in the world. I don't know what that means. So, so this is one I had no idea on, and I assumed it had something to do once again with Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
So as I sort of asked around as I do, and then also dug a little bit online, I found that most people do think, some people thought it had something to do with like Scotland, like being independent of England or something, and declaring themselves scot-free. And actually, this is the one where someone brought up William Wallace.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of that kind of makes sense. I could see that.
Yeah, and it does make sense, and it's one where and sometimes when there's something like that, it's like, okay, shut the door, moving on. That's what it means. But then it came up that there are a lot of people that actually misattribute this to something that happened in the late 1700s. If you're familiar with Dred Scott, so Dred Scott was a black slave born in Virginia in 1799. He challenged the courts on, whether or not he should be allowed to be free. And without getting too far down the details, I mean, I'm sure you're fairly familiar with it. Like, this is something you learn about in school. Dred Scott. So initially he lost, and then he won, and then he lost again. And this was all something that really did a huge thing that happened that helped lead to the Civil War, actually, and the creation of the Republican Party. Because the abolitionists, when he was deemed to not be, he and his family not to be allowed to be free by the U.S. Supreme Court, abolitionists were like, oh, it's go time. Like, this is bullcrap. He eventually was freed. Okay, so scot-free, you can understand why people would think that maybe that is where it came from. But it's not. And we know it's not because a couple reasons. The first obvious one is, Dred Scott, the last name is spelled S-C-O-T-T. The phrase scot-free always has one T in it. Right. And the other reason is because this has been used since the 1500s, at least, right? So it doesn't have anything to do with Dred Scott.
Yeah, and he was also someone I wouldn't say got out scot-free.
Yeah, well,
it sounded like his journey to freedom was not quick and without consequence.
That's a very good point. It wouldn't even make sense. Okay, if he ended up being freed. Okay, but the guy was, I don't remember how old he was. I think he was like in his late 50s the first time that he won his case, and then that got overturned. So the actual etymology of scot-free comes from an Old Norse word that meant a payment or contribution, and is also linked to a modern French word, ikat. So it's a share of communal expenses. So this was actually like the first word that we really have for taxes. So this word Scot is spelled S-K-A-T, and in medieval England, you would have a municipal tax levied against you based on how much you own. So you had a lot of land, your Scot was more. It was based on your lot. Your Scot and your lot. So you hear my lot in life.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't say that here, but I'm sure that's where it comes from, or maybe not. We'll do that differently.
You said it confidently, so
I
agree
believe.
with
I mean,
you.
because it makes sense. So that was for hundreds of years. Your Scot and your lot. Scot was the sum to be paid, and the lot was the allotted share. So this tax like went on for all the way in some places to 1832. So only those paying their Scot and lot. I may have messed that up a little bit because you have to pay a Scot and a lot. So never mind. It may not be your lot in life, but only those paying their Scot were allowed to vote. Somebody who avoided paying your part, didn't pay your fair share to bring back your hero, Barack Obama, because he did say that a lot. You would be said to have gotten off scot-free. Yeah.
You didn't build that.
No, you didn't build that. So anyway, it has nothing to do with Scotland. It is essentially getting out of not paying taxes. You get off scot-free.
I think it makes sense that people would think that's from Scotland when you see Scot with one T.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it has nothing to do with it. It's like, oh, I know the one I was going to say. It's like hopscotch. You know, hopscotch has nothing to do with Scotland or Scotch or anything. It just sounds like it. So,
you know, I gotta say, I feel kind of bad for the Scottish in this because this is also someone. And I hope no one's disappointed that's listening to this episode thinking, all right, this is my time. This is Scotland's time. We've seen the Dutch, we've seen the French and English. Yeah. You know, we very fearfully see the Germans come and go as they do in real life. But no.
Yeah, right. You would think if you see the title Great Scot and Scot-free, it's time for and the Scots are a proud bunch, and every Scottish person I know, which is like 2 or 3. I mean, they love it. They go back there. They're very proud. But unfortunately, we can't give you credit for Great Scot or Scot-free. And
this does give me a chance, though, that I have seen someone in a kilt bend over to pick up something, and
did you get?
He was scot-free.
Okay, yeah.
That is a sight, by the way, of what gravity does to you.
Oh gosh, yeah. On that note,
I'm not scot-free.
I think you could use your old catchphrase that we're trying to get started. Activate the balls. Does that work in that?
It would have been lift and tuck.
Okay.
So speaking of things, taxes and things you can get scot-free, I was actually impressed when I was in D.C., just the museums and things you take for granted. I was able to see Neil Armstrong's spacesuit that went on the moon.
Allegedly.
Prince believes we went on the moon, so I believe we went on the moon.
Got it. What's Prince's take on the Patrick Ewing thing, by the way?
Oh, he started that rumor.
Okay, that's what I thought. So go ahead. Please proceed.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I think we've talked before, living in the area we do, that we're surrounded by a lot of history. When you're younger, you don't appreciate it at all. So now I'm up there as an adult, and that spacesuit was on the moon.
That is pretty cool.
And
if I'd have seen that when I was 12, I would. I would.
Well, relatedly, trying to explain that to a 10-year-old, and not seeing them understand the magnificence of what they're seeing.
Why? You know what? Why is that? Because is it something like because we're just fascinated? When you're that young, your mind is getting blown by everything you see, and like, oh, look, a bag of chips, woo. Because you would think as a kid you'd be pretty blown away by it, but I'm like you. I remember going to Williamsburg and being like, okay, big whoop. I don't care. This is
Thomas Jefferson lived here. You know, big deal.
Wonderful.
Stuff that you don't appreciate. I think it's just being a kid, and anything that you're doing equals if you weren't there, you could be watching TV or looking at a tablet.
Yeah.
or
playing your Game Boy when it was my age.
doing something.
Yeah,
Watching
that
paint
is pretty
dry.
cool. So where else did you guys go?
So we hit a couple of the Smithsonian's. I actually went to the National Portrait Gallery and got to see.
Oh, that's cool.
I got to see the Barack Obama painting in person.
Yeah.
Which is one as much as I like Barack Obama, I don't care for.
Oh, really?
I don't care for the portrait, the artist, his style. I don't like. I did like though Michelle Obama's portrait. I got to see that though, and that's one that when I saw it, you see it on a website. It's not impressive, but you see it in person, it's really good.
So did you check out any of the other portraits, or did you just focus on the Obama family?
Well, you kind of had to, because what they did is the more recent presidents, all their portraits are at their libraries.
Oh,
so they had some
really?
terrible, like, artistic version of Bill Clinton. They had this really bad Ronald Reagan, like, watercolor. It looked like something you would buy at Bed Bath & Beyond in a discount bin.
Wow.
And I think Richard Nixon, they had, like, a picture of him. I mean, it was
nobody wanted to draw.
Right. Well, but there's the Nixon library, so all the recent
Well, that's pretty
stuff.
lame though, because they've got the whole portrait gallery, and then it's like everybody takes it to their library.
Yeah.
What does Obama have? Does he have any? Do they have in the library yet, or no? They're gonna do something.
I'm not sure. I'll be there. We'll
wait,
announce
isn't
it.
he like directing a movie? I saw something like that.
He's doing lots.
I know
of
you're
stuff.
all up on the Obamas, but I definitely feel
He's
like
on Netflix.
Yeah,
he's probably gonna have a podcast because everybody has a podcast.
I know. They're crushing the little guy.
They are,
aka us.
Yeah,
that's right.
But
Conan O'Brien's leading the new podcast revolution. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Yeah, okay.
I did see Mark Maron give him the business,
and
about
that's
that.
fine. And you know what? I don't blame. But Conan O'Brien, I used to love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now like, I don't love him as much. I don't know why. I think I got soured over his reaction to the
Tonight Show thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I never got over. I don't think he recovered from that. At least me personally. And I also now that I'm old, I don't stay up late to watch anything.
Well, also, none of those shows are funny anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all right. Well, good stuff, man. I'm glad you enjoyed your time in DC and were able to check that out. Was there anything else?
Yeah.
Or
So one thing I had a great visit in Washington, D.C. Highly recommend you go towards the end of the summer when everyone's back in school, and it's right that kind of dead zone between beginning of August and Labor Day. But what blew my mind was the proliferation of these electric scooters that we see down here in Richmond.
Yeah.
But D.C. was lousy with them. They were
Really?
everywhere, and you found yourself trying to walk places. And just it was like being in a video game because people were just flying all over the place.
People wiping out?
No, but I don't know.
Really?
I don't know how, but I realized at one point where I yelled at my wife for nearly getting hit by one, and then realized, why am I yelling at her?
It's not her
She's
fault.
not the one who's driving through a crowd of people on an electric scooter because you're too portly to walk.
That's a nuisance. There should be a thing where you can only use one of those scooters if you aren't over a certain weight, so that you're not doing it for that reason. Which just to bring it back, I don't think that great Scott, Mr. Winfield Scott, would be able to ride one of those.
Oh, let me clarify. These aren't the Walmart fat person scooters. These are the Rent-A-Scooters.
Oh, I know what you mean, and I'm saying
Oh, he couldn't do that.
Wilford Brimley Scott would not be able to.
I think something I did see that I think should be encouraged just for entertainment is drunk people riding them. Because I saw that several times too. Of like, you know what? I'm too drunk to drive, but you know what I'm just right for? To put myself on a propelling device and launch myself into a crowd of people.
Yeah, well, at least you're in America if that happens.
That's
because
right.
Have you heard there are so many stories of people wiping out on a scooter in France or Spain?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad situation.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna wipe out on a scooter, do it in
America.
Do it in America.
And if you're gonna go somewhere where there's a lot of snakes, bring a possum with you.
Scotty doesn't know that.
This is Steve. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Origin of Speaksies. We appreciate you listening to our show and also all the support we receive from you. Speaking of support, we would love it if you would write us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or the podcast provider of your choice. 5-star reviews help us get more listeners, and the more listeners we receive, the farther away it keeps us from opening a Patreon account and begging you to send us $5 a month so we can send you really crappy stickers. Also, if you're looking for more ways to be entertained, please check out the other Speaksies podcasts, Personal Records, where Scott interviews a new guest every episode about music that they love, and also True Facts with Robert Banquet. If you like history and you want to listen to it with a little Speaksies twist, we think you'll greatly enjoy those podcasts. It debuts on October 9th, and you can find this podcast and the other Speaksies podcast by searching for Speaksies at the podcast provider of your choice. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your 5-star review.
Have you ever seen a rhino take a dump?